Hi, my name is Therese Taff. I'm 19 years old and I'm from Tipperary. At the age of 4, I had already learned how to ride a bike. I was climbing trees just as well as my older brothers, and I was approximately 90% banana. I ate at least 4 a day. I was born into what some would think is a large Catholic family. I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. I now realize that that number is quite average, for Catholics anyway. The Catholic faith was very much a part of our family. We would go to Mass on Sundays, we would pray the rosary together, we would fast on Fridays, and we would talk about politics and faith around the dinner table. The 2 things we weren't supposed to discuss. These discussions in particular gave me an earnest desire to discover the truth. Not someone's truth, but the whole truth. I yearned for meaning. The only obstacle in my way was me. From a very young age, I was hypersensitive. I would hide from guests. I disliked attention from strangers and even extended family. I would cry whenever I needed something. In primary school, as I got older, I let fear guide me. I never argued. I never chose what game to play. I went with the flow. In other words, I was a doormat. Deep down, I knew God existed. Oh, he was real. I just didn't see what that had to do with me. Secondary school was a whole other story. The aim of the game was to not stick out. Why? Because I knew my beliefs made me different. So there was no point in trying to fit in. For 3 painful years, I partially succeeded. I did garner attention in religion class for knowing all the answers, but other than that, I was a nobody. Mission accomplished. That game had to stop when my brother decided to spend a year here at Holy Family Mission. He would come home on the days off, at peace with himself, happy, quieter, which was very unusual for my brother, the quiet part, that is. If you know, you know. I had to face the reality that he was changing, and it was for the better. This meant that God could intervene in someone's life. This meant that God could intervene in my life. The change I saw in my brother startled me at the time, but I soon forgot about it. I had bigger things to worry about. Some of my family would come down here to Glencumra for a family day or 2, a day where practicing Catholic families would get together for a talk and some games. I remember one community member in particular teaching us about sainthood and how the church doesn't have to recognize you as a saint for you to be a saint in heaven. That was interesting. Then I forgot about it. Nearing the end of the year, I came down and visited with another of my brothers. There was a healing service happening during the Holy Hour here in this chapel, and I was kneeling at that pew right over there. Father Patrick came to each person holding Jesus in the monstrance and blessing us with him. I had never experienced anything like it. When it came to my turn, I was flooded with an overwhelming feeling, but I couldn't quite place it. I was busy trying to see if anyone noticed that I was upset. I didn't know what to make of that experience, and eventually I forgot about it. Looking back, it's obvious that God was planting seeds. I just didn't recognize them. It's funny looking back on it now because God was giving me the thing that I wanted the most at that time. Substance, the truth. I just didn't see. That summer, HFM were looking for someone to cook for a weekend. My mother immediately said yes and brought my sister and I with her. The whole car ride there, she kept saying the same thing. It is in giving that we receive, girls. And by golly was she right. At the end of our stay, we met a staff member who mentioned Camp Veritas, a Catholic summer camp, to my mother. She booked 2 places for my sister and I right then and there with his help. This was a big deal for me. I felt something powerful was going to happen, and when I was overwhelmed by a paralyzing fear the day before camp, I knew something or someone did not appreciate my mother's efforts to bring me closer to Jesus. At Camp Veritas, however, I felt very out of place. Everyone seemed so confident, happy, and at home. Meanwhile, there I was, head to the ground, too scared to talk to people my age. All the girls liked to dress up for Mass, and would then gush about how pretty everyone's dresses were. So I followed suit. I put on a pretty frock, I complimented everyone's outfits, and got nothing back. I was frightened, out of my depth, and I felt ugly. Later on, I was speaking with a camp volunteer, a friend of mine, who paused mid-conversation and, looking straight into my eyes, said, "Therese, you are beautiful." Not only was I shocked by these words, but I was also completely taken aback by his eyes. They weren't his eyes anymore. They were the eyes of Jesus looking into my heart. I'm not sure how to explain it. What I do know is that Jesus saw me and he thought I was beautiful. Something similar had happened to me before. My eldest brother was introducing a friend to the family, and when we shook hands and he looked into my eyes, I just knew that this man knew and loved Jesus. The next day at camp was the day of the healing service, my second ever healing service, and the same thing happened. I was once again on my knees, overwhelmed by the same feeling, except this time I recognized it. It was love. Of course it was love. Jesus had made a breakthrough. I repeat, Jesus had made a breakthrough. I went back to school raving about God's existence and his goodness, which to my surprise no one liked. This time Jesus was there, but my faith wasn't strong enough to endure 3 more years of an all-girls secondary school environment. So I slipped back into letting fear guide me. The gossip, insults, and blank stares chipped away at my already shallow self-esteem. I had no Catholic friends to talk to except my family. I had no prayer group to confide in. What I did have was the Rosary, Sunday Mass, and the Bible. I wasn't sure how to use them, though. Those 3 years were a constant cycle of fear, anxiety, a brief moment of peace and joy at a retreat, and then more fear. I even found some of the retreats very difficult. At my first Youth 2000 event, before every meal, I was starving. But as soon as I sat down, I lost my appetite at the thought of entertaining a conversation with complete strangers and spent the mealtime pushing food around my plate. I was sick of not being able to talk to people. I was sick of not being able to eat when there was a large crowd of people around me. And I was sick of replaying every single social interaction in my mind and critiquing my mannerisms. I was uncomfortably aware that something needed to change. I needed to change. I watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse recently, and one of the scenes really resonated with me. Miles wants to be the one to save New York, but is told to stay out of it. You're not ready. So he asks, "When will I know I'm ready?" And Peter Parker responds, "You won't. It's a leap of faith. That's all it is, Miles, a leap of faith." Somewhere along the way, I decided that I wanted to go to HFM. For me, this was also a very big deal. I mean, living with a bunch of strangers from all over the world would be concerning for anyone. This was my leap of faith. I knew that I would find God here, and I have in so many ways. I get to receive him in the Eucharist every day. I encounter him in confession. I see him all around me, in nature and in people's hearts. He has helped me overcome the fear of talking to new people. He has stopped me from being overly harsh on myself. He encourages me to sing, laugh, and cry. He gives me the gifts of joy and peace when I ask. He's teaching me about Scripture and about the faith in depth. He has given me friendships to last a lifetime. He loves entertaining me through people's humor and alternative food preferences. He has taught me about myself, my strengths and weaknesses, virtues and vices. Most importantly, he has given me the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, himself. My year here has allowed me to not let fear control my life and realize how exciting a life lived with Christ is. In the really exciting parts of my life, God was present. My life is boring without him. Living in fear made my life boring. Now I know that God is the way, the truth, and the life, quite literally. With him, we're on the right path. We have the truth, and we live life to the fullest. That's why I'm here. May God bless you abundantly, and thank you for listening to my testimony. Au revoir.